Now, if you already have a crow up to handstand, which is nice and comfortable, then you can start to play with it and advance on that. I'm personally working on this today because after I've had my stitches taken out of my neck, I'm like rehabbing my movements back up again. So I'm going a little bit easier in terms of the 90-degree handstand push-up work. And this crow to handstand progression that I'm going to show you today is one method where I can slowly make it a little bit harder without going full on into dead pressing and 90-degree push-ups. So all we're going to do to start with is refine this movement where we go from the crow up to the handstand. Now notice what I've done there is I slowly transitioned the head and shoulders down while I lift the hips and the feet up. So I go all the way up to handstand like that. So even though we're not going that fast like this to throw myself up, I am still using that counterbalance of bringing the head and shoulders down, the hips and the legs up, which is really important for all of our bent arm press to handstand variations. Whether it's crow to handstand, 90-degree handstand push-up, L-sit to bent arm press, and moves like that. Now, if your handstand balance isn't fantastic, you can do all these drills back to wall as long as you have enough clearance between your head and the wall. And then at the top, you can use the wall as needed to catch your balance and then do the eccentric back down like so. So next, let's just make it a little bit harder by slowing it down a bit further and opening the position out, pausing slightly before we go up. So crow start, make it a bit squishy. Now what I mean by squishy is I'm lowering the shoulders and the hips. So less like yoga crow position and more like frog calisthenic strength position. And then from there, I'm just gonna sweep up, knees come off, slowly up into my handstand, eccentric, exactly the same, but in reverse to come back down. Now if you can get the balance right there, it's still not that difficult to do compared to something like a 90-degree handstand push-up because the lever arms are much closer in and your body's not so deep, not so close to the floor. So let's do exactly the same now, open out a little bit further. So same froggy crow position, open out a bit further, and then up. So notice on that one, I didn't talk so much because we're now starting to get to the point where it's getting a little bit harder. The lever arms are getting longer, so the intensity is increasing. Same again, but opening out even further. Oh, cap's now getting in the way, so I need to turn that round. And I did then arch the body up, so meaning the hips and the legs sort of bananaed up and then scooped myself into handstand. Now that is one way you can again make it a little bit easier, like that banana type handstand, done correctly and falling over to the overbalance definitely helps you out of that bottom position, that scooping type effect. Where it's now like you're falling over into the handstand. And that's a really good way when you're first learning your handstand push-ups or your crow to handstand, is actually fall up into it. So my legs go up and over and pulls me up. A lot of people get stuck back here somewhere, especially when they're trying to make their body into a real tight, hollow body position. They end up making it really hard for themselves because they're stuck over here and they need to scoop up to that handstand position. Now once we start opening out to these type of positions, you actually don't need to use the crow so much. You could just go into like a froggy bent arm planche position and push up from there. So let's turn the hat around and I'll show you what I mean. So instead of coming off the elbows in that crow position, now I'm just going to come from here and push up. Wasn't so good in terms of lengthening out lever arm wise, but you get what I mean, is I'm not using the crow or frog now, I'm just opening out and going up. But let's continue with the froggy crow position as I start because I'm trying to keep the intensity as low as possible. So here, more of a straddle. So that was definitely easier than the one I'd done before because I get to dive the head and shoulders down and scoop the legs up a bit easier. That did feel relatively easy, so I'm going to try a straight body one next, so keeping the legs closer together. So same start position. No, I said I was going to go legs together, but I didn't. Let's try that again. Okay, let's try again for straighter body. That wasn't that great in terms of depth, so my hips and my legs didn't get too low. So I definitely went into that a bit more like a shoulder stand type position and went up. But that's definitely working to keep the intensity lower. Now, there's lots of room to play with this one. You can raise your hands up. You can keep everything a little bit tighter into more of a tight crow to handstand position and not open out. You could use P-bars. You could do it on the edge of a box, go more into a shoulder stand position. And you could use different amounts of momentum. So I'm a big fan of it. Let me know down in the comments if you have any questions regarding this one. I'll also be doing a live Q&A next week, so I'm going to be back to doing weekly ones of those. So drop any questions specifically for that in the comments as well. If you're after help with your training, check out my app, check out my website for online coaching, www.paultwyman.com.au, and I'll speak to you in the next one. Thanks, guys.